Yo, it's Guido coming at you with a Tactics Talk. Welcome back, guys. This episode of World of Tanks, and we have Tiers. He's in a Tier 10. Well, I was not a Tier 10 battle, but he's top tier, 3-tier battle. But he is in a Tier 10, and he is in a tank that I cannot pronounce. So hold on, a little guest help from the pronunciation expert.
Kran.
All right, there you go. Kran. Okay. So, hold on.
Kran.
Okay, that's what it is. That's what this is, Tier 10. Do you want to know how to play this tank right? We're going to call it the Kran from now on. Well, let's watch Tiers do so. I just watched this video. Or this replay. I'm making the video, all right? I'm watching the replay, making the video. And we get some serious Kran going on right here. Tiers is going to... He cuts a little closer than I would have, but it didn't hurt him. There is one already on each side. He is headed to the top of the hill. We're actually going to speed this up because the preliminaries take a while. This tank was absolutely made for this fight on the hill. The arty complicates things. If the enemy can get up on top, it negates the advantages of the Kran. But that is not what's going to happen. This is the reason, folks, that you go INS direct. Directly, do not pass go. Do not collect $200. You simply go to the top. This was interesting to me because he actually just comes across and doesn't go for the mill, the windmill. This works out well. I'm going to have to think about this one for a while. I don't know how much I like it. I feel like if multiple of their guys had come up top, he'd be in big trouble. But you play the game you're presented with. And initially, it looks like what he's trying to do here is find somebody being a little bit silly and not trick them necessarily, but surprise them. I guess it's a kind of trick, right? It's a surprisey trick on the Kronvliangen. Notice that he doesn't have anybody right now up with him. It's just him and a couple guys down below, the Type 61. His team did not send a major force up here, and they're certainly not here now. But let's find out what happens to this poor, unfortunate object, 430 version 2, who thought he was going to get up here and anchor the team, and then realizes he is now an anchor of a different sort, the kind that's on the bottom of the sea. And unfortunately, we get a little bit of a miss right there. But we take 2 hit points and immediately we're into a reload. This tank has 3 shells now. That's a fairly recent change, but it reloads much faster. So in situations like this, the Kronvliangen is a little bit more flexible. He would have taken another 10 seconds or so for each reload. He would have had another shell, but he definitely would have been a bit more pushable. And the enemy team makes a massive mistake here. For whatever reason, tries to get into the side of the turret, just goes a little bit right. For whatever reason, they just don't push up. And there's quite a few guys down below, but look at this. Had they just all ignored these guys and went right up here and taken out Tiers, their chance at winning this hill is much, much higher. Turns out, though, they didn't quite send as many as Tiers' team did, and Tiers' team is now all gathering like witches in their black masses here. A little miss, and then a hit into the front. A nice track of the melt. I don't know if he fixed it. It repaired quickly, so it was either a damage or a fix. I didn't quite notice whether it was broken track or just damaged. He did stop, so I think it was broken. Notice how fast then the reload happens, and notice, obviously, for all you new guys, what he's doing here is called hold down. He's only presenting this thing's very, very strong turret. One of the best in the game, especially with the angles. The other problem that these guys have is they're lower, so that lookup angle on the already angled turret is going to be much higher, right? So if you look down, you're flat plating that armor. If you look up, it's a higher angle of incidence. Is that the word I'm looking for? It's a higher angle, leave it at that, which means that they're going to ricochet or bounce a lot more. The Conqueror has a weak... Let's get back to what he's doing. It looks like Tiers was looking at it a couple times. There is a weak spot on the Conqueror's nugget on the top, but now he has a slight disadvantage of trying to get there of look down. The Conqueror is angled up a bit, so it's not too bad. It's also not that easy of a shot, so he kind of forgoes that. The Conway, I saw him earlier. You missed him. I think you had an easy shot on that guy a while back, but he's firing HE, so it didn't hurt you for 110. Let him fire that 110 HE all day. Trying to sneak one in there. The other Emil's maybe, the Emil 2 is one of the more dangerous guys he has to deal with. He backs out of that thing. If he pushes over to get his gun into the hole of the Emil 2 is going to have shots into the hole of the Kran. So he does have to be careful. And again, he sort of ignores Tears, and Tears is on a reload, so he can't really take advantage of this push. But now he knows that Emil 2 is out of shots. If he's not out of shots, he doesn't have many. And he's going to come in here and look for some definite damage here. He does take some return fire. He sells out a little bit. Nice switch to take out the 430 version 2, who was a one-shot. That's just great SA and shot selection right there. He's going to go ahead and put one into the Emil because he's lower hit points. I thought that was a good idea too. Plus he had an opportunity because the guy was not hold down right there. Not enough anyway. And now we've got this Emil 2 down to a one-shot. He's going to back out. Notice he's just using his standard APCR, which is nice. Hasn't really been required to get into the heat. And oh, by the way, all the angles and the look down and the way he's shooting, heat was probably not his best choice anyway during this fight. Even though the Conqueror has some pretty good armor, the hull is fairly soft, and that the hatch doesn't need the heat. Plus, the angles can mess with heat. So just everything about this fight really begged for APCR. Unless he gets into a face-to-face fight with something like this, but he doesn't have a problem because he's got him angled, and he's going to sneak one right up under the wheel there. The T-69 stands in and eats a shot, and we're up to 3,059. There's the artillery finally, which surprised me. I'm very surprised the artillery wasn't working on Tears. He was probably working on these clusters of tanks, getting multiple shots and sort of ignoring Tears. This again goes back to my point that they should have just pushed up. Eventually the T-54 Mod 1 came up and started helping. But man, they would have had a heyday with Tears here. But that is not what happened. So like I said, you fight the battle you're given. Tears is on a reload. Watch during this how many times he presses C and right away and gets reloaded so he's ready for the next engagement. It really becomes a factor here in just a few potatoes as he's looking for shots. This was pretty easy because the shots were all downrange. All he had to do was relatively easy. All he had to do was reload and get his 3 shots downrange. But there were a couple times where he reloaded when he only had 1 shot because he didn't have an easy shot with that last one, and he didn't want to sell out for taking damage just to get it. So he pressed C, got reloaded, and continued the fight looking for a better opportunity. That is something that when you are playing autoloaders in this game and you're new to the game, you need to be very cognizant of and pay attention to. You do not want to constantly sell out in your autoloaders just to get that last shot or two, or just drive out and try to send that clip down range. It's very tempting. It looks like, holy cow, I can really do some damage here, but nearly every time you give up way more hit points than you get or than you needed to. Even if you get more hit points, you probably didn't need to give up that many. This is where autoloaders are fun. He's going to get a couple opportunities where he can just pump 3 shots right into guys and just crank out the damage. Now he's up to 4,498. We're at decision time. If we look at the minimap, we can tell that the enemy is pushing our cap, although we have quite a few tanks back there holding it, to include a T-95 and a couple guys in a sniper hill. And now we're starting to work around behind him. But if you look at the rolls, the tank rolls, the tanks that are left, the enemy team's not in a bad position tank-wise. They're in a terrible position map control-wise. That's a big part of this game as well for you new guys. You might look at that and go, it looks pretty even. 9-7 is not too bad. Slight advantage to Tears' team. But add that slight advantage to the advantage in the map control, and it's a huge advantage because now you're going to get all kinds of crossfires going on. The advantage the enemy team has is if they're turtling up and hiding in bushes, they're hoping to take a few of these aggressive guys from Tears' team out and start to even it up, and that's kind of the chess match part of this game in the mid to late game here. But it looks like Tears' team is doing a pretty nice job of just working around the edges. Tears sees the light on the 125 and just hopes that he can get close enough. See how he was going for that bush and he was thinking I can get shots on the 125. I'm betting that he realized, if you look at, again from you guys, if you look at this, that's your draw distance, that outer ring. Make sure those rings are turned on, folks. They're in your settings. Turn on both rings. That's your draw distance, meaning that even if he's lit, he's not going to be showing on your map out here. So he carves off of that and says, well, that's not quite close enough, but I know that this promontory down here has a bush, and it's a little bit closer. Then he gets a shot of opportunity because we got the Conqueror. Then the standard thing happens late game when you have a big game. When you're having a big game, the first shot tracks or misses. But hey, it's an autoloader. That's the beauty. You get that tracking shot on the first one, and you can turn right around and shoot again. So bummer, he hit C. I think that was overall a decent idea. He would have got one more shot in there. Hard to know. That ISU lit up just about the time that he was pressing C, and now he's looking for the 110. He's like, all right, I'm going to get some sweet side shots into the 110. It also helps that the 110 moved forward from his last position. Now he's well inside draw distance. And now we just get this is what you're looking for in a Kran late game. You just can't ask for anything better. 2 shots into him. We're going to put a third one, I believe. Yep, and we're out of shells. Unfortunately, we're reloading. He sits here for a little while and then gets lit. Wow. I don't know. I guess the Progetto finally got close enough and ended up seeing him maybe off of that last shot. It seemed like a little bit more than 3 seconds. Somebody shot in there. That was interesting. Came close. We'll back out. We're at 6,301 damage. We've got 3 kills. Watch this timing shot here. Goes dark. Oh, sorry. Not dark, but he moves in there and then boom. That wasn't his shot that killed him. So that was a nice job. You'll note that he had the pipper where that guy was, but he wasn't lighting him up because there is a wood berm right there. But the shots will go through those wood berms. Those kind of shots, blind shots, timing shots, those are all things you need to work on. They are actually important to this game. All right, what he just did, he had 2 APCR rounds left, which meant he was only going to get 2 if he hit C. So he switched over to the heat so we can get a full 3. People miss that a lot. I do it myself. Be very careful. It's a bummer, especially if it's 1. And you wait that 20, 30, 40 seconds, depending on what autoloader it is, only to get 1 shell out of it. That's a bad realization. And then the last hit points on the board, he's in position to get him. He's just... This is always funny to me because I get in these positions and you're just like, please reload, reload. Because you know all these big guns all around it are going to just start bombing this poor T-95 from every direction. You want to try to get some damage out of it. Boom. Oh! The other T-95 took a big chunk, and that's what I was talking about. Pretty soon one of those big dudes is going to hammer him. And I'm assuming that other T-95, I wonder if he HE'd him or just got through a hatch, because I think that was more or less a face-to-face shot that he took right there. Yeah, it sure was. Might have been slightly angled to him. I don't know, but wow, dude. 7,176, 1,200 bounced, 1,570. Assist. 7,176 damage. Start over. 1,200 bounced and 1,570 assist with 3 kills. A large game with the Kran Wagen. Pretty textbook, guys. We talked about, though, there were some things the enemy team could have done had they tried to take the top. Had they deleted Tears, I think they would have had a much better day because he absolutely anchored that top hill there. They may have had some trouble. The thing is, they could have pushed up easily and ignored all the guys on the lower road. The guys on the lower road have to come up and over to shoot them in the back, and they're going to get shot by all the campers down below and take damage. And had they just rushed up to the top, they'd have found Tears. And I think the Type 61 was there for a moment, and maybe eventually the T-54 Mod 1. Really pretty easy win on the hill anyway. Unknown what would happen in the rest of the game had they just done that. But they didn't, so you play the fight that you have. It was interesting how far right on the hill he was when he started, but that was a good effort to get there and punish somebody who's trying to get up there fast, and that poor 430 version 2 found that out pretty quickly. All right, thanks for sending that in. That was fantastic, man. Really nicely done. Thanks, everybody, for coming by and checking out the channel. I do appreciate it. Throw me a subscribe if you like what you saw or learned something. If you're looking for other ways to help the channel, to support the channel, down in the description, all kinds of ways to do so. We will see you.